this is Sarah, and I know we are in the final few hours of the TPT site-wide sale. And if you are still doing some back-to-school shopping, I wanted to share with you a behind-the-scenes look of 4 of my favorite digital resources. I know so many teachers are either starting the year online or are starting with a hybrid model, or are preparing for the possibility of having to shift to online. And so I know digital resources are kind of a big deal right now. And while they are still relatively new in the teacher space, I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look of some of the digital resources I have in my store. So that way you really sort of know what you're getting when you purchase these resources. Plus these ones, like I said, are some of my favorites. So if you are at my TPT store, first of all, the easiest way to find all of my digital resources is to come over here to the custom categories and then select digital resources. And if a resource is listed in this section, then it has a digital element to it. And so all of these resources here have some digital element to it. Most of my resources also have print versions. My very first resource that I made digitally is the only one that does not, because I didn't know what I was doing, and it's created as basically 2 separate resources. But other than that one, every other resource has both paper and digital versions, so that way you can use them whether you are in online or in-person teaching. So one of my favorite digital resources is one that I just converted recently. It's these reading response bookmarks, and I recently figured out just a way that I could reformat the content. They're not really a bookmark, but I've turned it into a reading response journal. So this is what the Google slide looks like. All of my digital resources are pretty much created using Google Slides. And so it has a table of content. So if you wanted to share the entire journal with your students, you could. And this is interactive, so students can click on the title and then it takes them to this page. And then there's a little arrow down here that can take them back to the table of content. So if you wanted to assign this whole journal and then you're telling your students, today we're going to respond to the theme, they could click on the theme and then get taken here. And then this is just kind of a reminder of what that skill is. This was on the front side of the bookmark, and it explains what this skill or strategy is, how it helps them as readers, and then when they should use it. And then there's thinking stems and question stems, and then it asks the students to basically pick one of the thinking stems, and then they can type their response here. The text boxes are already ready to go, so students just have to type and then pick a question stem and respond to it here. So even though it's not a bookmark, it is still a way for students to use the information in that resource to respond to their reading in a meaningful way. So that is one of my new digital updates, and I like the way that it turned out, and I loved the bookmarks and the content on the bookmarks. And so I was really excited to figure out a way to make it digital as well. Another one of my digital resources that I really, really like is this set of genre reading passages. Hopefully my internet keeps up here. And these are a resource that I created last spring. And that one is located, I want you to see the cover, so in case you're looking for it. That one is right here, these reading comprehension passages for genre. And these ones come in both print and in digital reading passages. And what it is basically it has, I think there's a total of 24 passages, and they are all written in a different genre. So again, it has a table of contents. It is interactive, so students can click on it. It takes them to the passage, and then the next page has a set of questions. And the way that I have the comprehension questions set up, I want to keep them open-ended so students can feel like they have the ability to really share their opinions and their thinking about it. And every passage has reflecting on the genre section where they read it, and they should be able to then, based off of what they've read, figure out what the genre is. And okay, come on, click over here. There we go. And so after they read it, what's the genre? And then they have to figure out what are 3 attributes that were included in the text that help them identify the genre. I am such a huge fan of teaching genre and helping students identify and understand the attributes, because that's going to help them figure out what type of text they like to read individually. And so once they've read these passages, they can figure out what the genre is. And then there's 3 just basic comprehension questions that are open-ended. Students would have to refer back to the text in order to get these correct. And then they have 2 questions that help them reflect on their own experience with reading it. Did they enjoy reading the text? Why? Who would they want to recommend this genre to? And really just questions that help them sort of internalize the reading experience. And so, like I said, there is passages for adventure, autobiography, biography, drama, fable, fairy tale, fantasy, fiction, pretty much all of the genres that you would teach. And the ones that you see in my other genre resources have a specific passage that students can read and then use that to figure out what they know about genre to identify the genre. So this is one of my favorite resources. Again, this is available in both print and in digital. Another one of the resources that I have gotten a lot of really good feedback are all of my vocabulary routines. I have digital resources and paper too, for that matter, for context clues, for figurative language, for prefixes and suffixes. The one I'm going to show you today is on root words, which I know is a common skill that we teach in upper elementary, especially 4th and 5th grade. And so it is I call it my root word of the week routine, vocabulary routine. And again, this one is available in both print and in paper. And the digital version looks like this. And so basically every worksheet or every Google slide, there is a root word. And then it has 2 sentences that use that word in an example. And so students take the context of that word and how it's used in the sentence, and we ask them to make a prediction. What do they think this root auto means? So if they can figure out, what does autograph mean? What does autopilot mean? What do they have in common? What do we think the word auto means? And then they look it up and figure out what the origin is. They provide a definition of the root, so they can either, if you have like a dictionary for them to use, or they can use an online resource to figure out the definition, and then find examples of other words that have the same root in it. So building their word bank of other words that have the same root. And then I love having students create a visual reminder for them. And this, they can use the drawing tool up here, the shapes. And obviously it's not going to be perfect because it's online, but just some symbol that helps them remember what auto means. And this will be different for every student, but when students create a visual representation, it helps things just stick in their memory that much, that much longer. It just really helps them remember what the word is. And so having students create a symbol that helps them remember what auto means, and then using some of their examples in sentences. So once they've come up with the examples, do they really understand what those words mean? And can they use it in a sentence? So this resource has 40 different root words that you can use. So you could do one a week, and every day students could do a different part of the routine, or you could do one a day and students can go through and do all of them every day. You could share this entire document with students so they have all of them, or you can just share one of the slides at a time. And again, this resource is available in both paper and in digital. I've gotten lots of good feedback on it from teachers, and I love that this is, since it's a routine, a vocabulary routine that you're either doing daily or weekly, I'm glad that I'm able to provide both the digital and print. So even if you start the year online and you move to in-person, you can still continue with this routine. And same if you start the year in person but move to online, this is a routine that you'd be able to keep with both forms of instruction. And then my 4th favorite digital resource was the very first digital resource that I created. And this one does have a paper version as well, but they're listed as 2 separate resources. And when I first created this one, I uploaded it using the digital upload tool with Teachers Pay Teachers. But then I realized you can't also provide access to the paper one. So unfortunately, if you purchase this digital resource, the paper version does not come with it. There is a paper version in my TPT store, but this is the one that is separate. But this has been a really great resource for teachers to use for students when it comes to reading responses. And it is a set, I think there's 28 different graphic organizers that work with fiction text. So cause and effects, a couple different ones, character analysis, character traits, dialogue, conclusions, theme, a couple different examples, but I try to keep them really basic and open-ended, and so they could work with any text. On all of the graphic organizers, there is a space here for students just to write down anything that jumps out of them about the text. I think sometimes, even if we're practicing a reading skill or strategy, we still want to give students a chance to share their thinking or their response. And so this is the perfect size for students just to jot down their thoughts. They're thinking about a text, whether it was a favorite part, a question that they had, And then there's the text boxes that are available for students to fill out. If they were identifying the plot structure, they'd write all of the information there. If they're looking the most valuable part, again, problem and solution, whatever the skill is, the graphic organizer is set up and ready to go. So all of these work with fiction text. And again, a great way if your students are reading something for independent reading, if you have a whole class novel, if you're working on a specific skill, these are a great way for your students to respond. And it's open-ended. And like I said, they work with any fiction text. So those are 4 of my favorite digital resources. Like I said, if you are looking for digital resources in my TPT store, the best way to do that is if you click on the digital resources button on the side of my store. Here we go. Right up here, the digital resource section is highlighted. And then you can see all of these resources have digital. Like I said, those are kind of a behind the scenes look of 4 of my favorites. And hopefully you are able to snag some really good deals during the back to school sale, which ends tonight at midnight.